So they scorecarded up the legislature, and it didn't come out so well. And neither has my throat. Did that clear get on the air? I don't know. You know, it did? So usually I'm very quiet when that banner comes across because I'm a broadcaster. I know how to time things, but sorry. Anyway, it's just the summer thing. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm sure you're worried. How's everybody? Good? Dan York State of Mind for a Thursday evening. Mike Stenhouse is in the house from the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity. Mike has a list of all the good votes and not so good votes from the legislature from his point of view. By the way, if you have your own list, you can come on the show as well. It's not just Mike's list that rules the day, but since he puts out the list, I think we should follow the list. And as we close this General Assembly session this season, I think it's important that we take a look at the list, okay? So we shall. Now that we're cleared, let's go to the rundown and see what's going on here. Down to the wire and down the stretch they come. I always wanted just to be a track announcer. Anyway, it's been some horse race. Here's the headline. They dash towards the end of the session. And in addition to, you know, the big stuff that's gotten our attention, which we'll talk about in just a second on that little thing next, next in line, here's a graphic of some of the stuff they were trying to clean up. And there's one thing in here that just cracks me up. By the way, it's not just going to be medical marijuana as we go. It's going to be marijuana being free for everybody to be used and then taxed, because it's the only way we're getting out of this fiscal jam probably. But there's all sorts of things that go on. That Uber thing's got the taxi drivers just fit to be tied. Do a little investigation. But the thing that drives me crazy is the toll evaders. Did you read this? Since the start of Fast Pass toll lanes, I read from the Providence Journal, in 2012, 138 Rhode Islanders have repeatedly, habitually blown through bridge tolls more than 100 times. 100 times. Now, other states have laws where they suspend licenses and the like, and tougher stuff, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to write a law. It was kind of held, not voted upon, but they're writing a law for 138 people. Now, I got a better idea. Why don't we just send a cop to 138 people's houses? We know who they are because they've been sending them forms and letters and fines and demands and all sorts of stuff. So rather than just writing legislation for one bridge and its scofflaws, why don't we just go get the rascals and make them pay up? Anyway, on the tolls, it is a mess. See, the other states have these really vast toll penalty plans because they're tolled out the wazoo. We don't have the tolls out the wazoo. We got a bridge. But right now, enjoy the idea that we don't have tolls out the wazoo because we're going to get them. Anyway, the headline this news cycle, bridge closure rolls debate over royals? No, that's a typo. Bridge closure royals debate over toll plan. Our bad on that. We apologize. But this saga just continues. Here's an Eyewitness News account of the businesses on Park Avenue in Cranston that went, what?
When they told you that the bridge was going to close, what was your initial reaction?
They didn't tell us. They pulled up in Suburbans and put up barrels.
Kenny Elderkin is a barber here. We met with him on day 2 of the closure. Next door is APB Vapes. They've only been open for 2 months.
Usually I have, anywhere from 40 to 50 walk-in customers a day. I've had 6 today.
The DOT says before shutting it down, they got recommendations from 3 separate engineers and consulted with state police. They all agreed to close the bridge. They then sent the same engineering firm who inspected the bridge last year back to Park Avenue, and they agreed with the call, citing new wear and tear.
If they knew 9 months ago that it was going to require a high priority of corrective action, why wasn't any corrective action taken?
All right, so that was the House Speaker yesterday. And then he visited Tim and Ted on Newsmakers, an early taping on a Thursday for the very popular weekend show, when he's waxing on about how he thinks the DOT needs to be investigated over all this.
When you have a report that says we have to give this bridge a lot of attention, or, well, it didn't say or, you have to give this bridge a lot of attention. It's in deficient condition. My suspicion is if you don't give it the attention that the report calls for, you're ultimately going to have to shut the bridge down. That DOT failed in its mission. As a result, the bridge is shut down, businesses are suffering, residents are inconvenienced, so I call for an investigation. What went wrong? Why did they fail to give the bridge the attention that it deserved? You can't run a state like that.
There's no internal affairs department at the Department of Transportation. And the DOT's already put out letters over this with the new director saying, listen, we've taken this under consideration, we've done the right kind of protocols, I'm paraphrasing, we've done everything correctly. So I don't know what he's asking for. Yesterday, we played you the audio from 2 nights ago where he was talking about potential criminal look-see. Well, spit it out, Mr. Speaker. Either there's a legitimate response to the bridge, or you have something that you know that you're not telling us that needs to be investigated by an outside department, like the state police. In the meantime, this kind of wishy-washy, passive-aggressive criticism going on between the Speaker and the Governor, it's not good for the state because nobody trusts anybody anyway. In the meantime, the Governor is hiding under a rock somewhere ever since this bridge closure happened. She should be out speaking and out front and affirmative, but her plan is so upside down and backwards and ill-prepared that she's not doing that. Gary Sass from the Bryant Leadership Institute weighed in on my radio show earlier today about the difference between Gina the Treasurer, so prepared for pension reform, and Gina the Governor, not so prepared for tolls.
Treasurer was so meticulous in and out of the governor when she handled the pension issue. Data was out there. It could be discussed. It was done well. This proposal, which is very complex, comes at us 2 or 3 weeks before the legislative session ends, and we criticize the legislature for not doing their homework. Well, there's no legislature in this country that could do their homework on this kind of proposal in that time frame. And I think it's absurd to think that we could go $500 million into debt without full disclosure to the public on whatever detail the public's interested in.
I think he's absolutely right. And so the Speaker is good to hold off on this toll plan, in my humble opinion, but not so good crying like a baby over the Park Avenue Bridge. Spit it out or don't, Mr. Speaker. All right, Plain Ridge opens and, start to put the proverbial gun to our heads, figuratively, of course. The headline here, big day. You want to know what the clientele looks like? Here's what it looks like.
Welcome to Plain Ridge Park Casino, a slots parlor that opened its doors at noon Wednesday.
Glad I'm here because it was like coming into a football stadium coming in today.
Before guys like George Walden came in to risk their money, they had to wait in this line. Alongside the mall, the finishing touches are still being added.
I'm here to win some money, I hope.
This is great. This is not that far from my house and brand new. How can you go wrong?
Something Rhode Island officials are keeping an eye on. People like Cumberland resident Ed Poulin, who says he won't go to Twin River anymore. This is his new gaming destination.
Oh, I'll come here. It's a lot closer.
Ed, come back. Come back, Ed. Ed and a whole bunch of others are going to go to Plain Ridge, right? And whatever floats your boat, dude. It's your money. It's America. It's a First Amendment opportunity. But know that this is the beginning of the end for us in a lot of ways. You think it's just going to be tolls, it's going to be marijuana, it's going to be a whole bunch of things, because this is going to put quite the dent in. They're just getting started in Massachusetts. In the meantime, it's wrapping up in Cranston. Yes, the headline here where Captain Antonucci has finally come to resolve with his former boss, the mayor, because that whole thing is wrapping up. Eyewitness News is on it.
After being on paid leave for more than a year, Cranston Police Captain Stephen Antonucci is resigning. In an agreement with the city, Antonucci will leave his position and drop all pending legal actions against the city. In exchange, Cranston will drop its prosecution of Antonucci. Last April, Mayor Fung called for Antonucci's resignation after a Rhode Island State Police investigation found he ordered a parking ticket blitz in the wards of 2 city councilmen who voted against a police union contract. One of those counselors, Paul Arquetto.
He made an emotional reaction to the fact that the contract was denied, and that reaction cost him his job.
Now, let me tell you something. Between Captain Antonucci and Mayor Fung, it's mutual Armageddon that has been avoided here. They got pictures on each other going way back. Antonucci worked for Cranston's Mayor Fung on campaigns. They were very close, and now they are estranged. And settling and walking away probably alleviates X number of other controversies for now. And finally, Obamacare relief, the headline in the Washington Post. Yes, a lot of people are happy about this. The Supreme Court votes 6-3. Here's the detail.
In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court upheld a key element of President Obama's Affordable Care Act, the rule allowing subsidies to people who buy insurance on the federal marketplace. Plaintiffs argued that in a strict interpretation of the law's language, only states that have set up their own exchanges are entitled to subsidies for lower-income people. President Obama predicted that without those subsidies, millions would have lost their insurance.
America would have gone backwards. And that's not what we do. That's not what America does. We move forward.
Saved for now. 2016 is a brand new election, and it will be on, well, it'll be on the agenda, that's for sure. All right, your state of mind is important to me. 228-1886. Call me. Leave me a voicemail, for heaven's sakes. Email, Facebook post, tweet, you know, that kind of thing. Here's some feedback. Hopeless Rhode Island. Isn't that like a movie? Just more Rhode Island dirty politics and trickery, Mr. Speaker. There's nothing to investigate. You know what? Hopeless? You're absolutely right. Oh, there we are. But, you know, the investigation is supposed to be about that very dark bridge. All right, when we come back, we'll talk to Mike Stenhouse. He's got some dark numbers for this legislature, I'll tell you that. Stay with us. It's called the Freedom Index from the Freedom and Prosperity Institute. And if you've got an index, I'd be happy to have you here to talk about how you rate our legislature. But since they're one of the few, if only, who actually rate the legislature, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Here's the headline in the press release. The Freedom Index live rates legislators as they vote. So this is not a complete source of data at this point, at least for this season, because they're still in the middle of it, right?
Yeah, there's still dozens of votes happening every day in the House and Senate, and we still haven't finalized our ratings on every single bill. It's quite a process. We have a peer review process. But
there you are, by the way. It's nice to see Mike Stenhouse.
I know.
Everybody okay here tonight? I think we all went to the bar before we started this show. It happens from time to time. You were saying?
Yeah, so we look at it not so much as the individual legislators score, and we let local groups, you can pick it out. We look for the larger trend. What's the General Assembly doing as a whole? And once again, for I think the fourth year in a row, we're seeing more bills that are harmful to our state being passed than are good for our state. And as of last time I looked at it, not one legislator had scored in positive territory, which is part of the go along, get along attitude that's up there. And that's also indicative that nobody voted against the House budget.
Okay, so, you know, you've got all these ratings and stuff. The Freedom Index scorecard, 58 have a negative rating, 45 a positive rating, with an aggregate negative rating of 29. Those are the bills, not the people.
We rate the bills.
You rate the
bills. And then how people vote on it, you get either a positive or a negative, whether you vote for or against a good or a bad bill.
Okay, so good bill, yes vote, points.
Yes.
Bad bill, yes vote, bad points.
Right.
Bad bill, yes. Bad bill, no vote, good points. Bad bill, yes vote, bad points.
So on every bill, every legislator has a chance to get a positive score.
Yes. Well, you're just a negative knee bum. You're just, you have nothing nice to say about any of these people and what's going on up there? Seriously, what's the matter with you, man?
No, that's it's just an objective scorecard. There were some good things done this year.
Some people are rumphing over the idea that
but there are more bad things done.
So what are the principles that would create a good bill? And give me an example.
And let me say that some of this is open for debate. It's our subjective view. All right. So we call it a freedom index, and it goes with our name. We believe that the more we're free from government taxes and regulation, businesses and individuals, that the more prosperous we'll be. So we rate bills as to whether or not they infringe on or expand or protect our freedoms. If it infringes on our freedoms, it's likely by taxing us or regulating us or infringing on our personal rights or something. We tend to give it a negative score, even if it's defensible. Like, take one bill. We got a lot of calls. It would make it a crime or something, I forget, to put something threatening on electronic media, social media. Makes sense. A lot of people would vote for that, but it's still an infringement on your First Amendment right to free speech. So we take
Well,
that.
What kind of threat are you talking about?
Well, it doesn't specify it. It leaves it very
I want to
subjective.
kill you? You're not defending that.
No, of course not.
No.
But if the language were that specific, but it leaves way too much open to interpretation.
Okay.
So those types of arguments come into play.
You have a little bit of libertarian philosophy
Sure.
in this, right?
Sure.
Okay. What's an example of a great bill? Is there a great bill in the hopper at all?
Well, I'm trying to think offhand. There was a bill that would require IDs if you want to use your SNAP card to buy something at a store. That's good, right? Whether it works or not, we'll see. But it's good. It doesn't infringe on anybody's rights. It protects freedoms, and it might save some money for the state.
In terms of fraud and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we had bills that reduced the sales tax on consumer business consumption of energy, right? We had bills that reduced income taxes on Social Security income. Those are good bills. We give those positive scores. Some bills, and then there's way too many bad bills.
Now, you've been doing this for how long?
I think this is our 4th year.
Is anybody in the legislature aware that you're scoring them? Do they care?
Yeah, they do. This is the first year we've done it live in session because we've got a new tool we bought that can help us monitor all the votes and the bills. Last year we'd always do as an after the fact. We're hoping next year we'll get even better at this so that we might even influence votes.
So how can people watch your live evaluation?
Yeah.
How do they do it?
Our website, rifreedom.org/RIFreedomIndex. Okay, so freedom.org/RIFreedomIndex. And it updates almost, we don't even update it. It's done through this tool we buy, and it updates just whenever votes get electronically recorded.
Cast your vote. Clerk, clear the board. And boom, you're evaluating scorers literally as they vote.
Yeah, and what we encourage citizens to do is to look at it and then look at your reps and your senators and either support them, praise them for doing well, or criticize them for doing bad, but make it local in your area. Write a letter to the editor or get out there in social media and say, how could our legislator do this? Or thanks to him for doing that. Each bill vote is recorded on there. It's a really cool interactive website where you can really find out. Now, we only rate the bills that we think qualify. There are thousands of bills submitted in the year. We'll probably end up rating 100 to 150 that actually appear on the scorecard.
So Mark Cody of Woonsocket, the Democrat, and Nick Kettle, the Republican of Coventry, were the best scoring senators, correct?
That was our first week. That's a very old media release. I don't even know if that's still the case. I don't think that is the case right now. I don't even know.
Nobody's scoring well as you get deeper into the session.
Nobody's above zero.
It's getting worse.
The Senate is much worse in our view than the House.
How so?
I don't know. They just tend to vote for more so for worse bills.
Well, the Speaker of the House, Nick Mattiello, who is part of our rundown, all through our rundown, despite his leadership style, is pretty much recognized as a moderate conservative Democrat. So, he's about tax breaks like the Social Security. No, did you rate the Social Security aspect of the budget, or did you take a look at the whole budget in its totality?
We actually rated each article.
So he did okay on that one. You don't like that one, the Social Security tax break?
No, we like that break. I can't remember which article that was part of. Yeah. Every article has a few good things and a lot of bad things in it.
You think this is an important exercise because?
Because it makes the legislators accountable to their local constituents, A, and it gives the local constituents a relative system in which they can evaluate their legislator, and B, for us, we're more interested in the overall trend that the General Assembly is going. And right now, the overall trend is very negative. So it means more bad bills are passing than good bills.
All right. When we come back, some of the current hot topics. We'll ask Mike what he thinks about those. Do not go anywhere.
We're going to give a chance to Rhode Islanders who work hard. And it's just a start, just even at 960. It's very challenging. Working full-time at 960, it's still a huge challenge, but it is a start. It's a step in the right direction. Because I believe totally and completely that to have a thriving economy, you have to make it easy for businesses to do business, but you also have to support workers.
She just contradicted herself. You don't make it easy for businesses to do business when you raise their cost of employment. You just don't. And It's disappointing to see so much talk about jobs and economic growth, and then we do something so blatantly that works against that. So
Everybody's doing it. Massachusetts at 10,
Yep.
Connecticut's at 960, and we're just chasing their tails.
You know, we've heard that from leaders that we have to remain competitive with our neighbors. You know, you remain competitive by having a lower cost of doing business than your neighbors do. If we want to be competitive against Massachusetts and Connecticut, we have a lower cost of doing business, so the businesses will choose to locate here rather than there. So again, it's just a completely misunderstood topic. There's so much just misinformation being spread about the minimum wage year after year, and it's we believe that the target audience are, and we've proved this with research. The target, you know, most people who earn minimum wage are not heads of households trying to support a family. That's a very, very small slice of the pie. It's part-time kids. It's people working second jobs. People only wanting to work part-time, not full-time. So the idea that we're helping low-income families is just a mini truth of the whole thing. But yet that's all we hear. It's talked about it. You know, if we were helping low-income heads of households to the extent that everyone should believe, it would be a good thing. Yeah, but it's not.
I'm glad you made the speech. I mean, I could talk about the idea. The farce for me is not that this is incrementally growing. It's two things. One, that we don't have a 3 or 4 year program like every other state does. So at least the businesses who are getting stock can plan and project and perform what it is that they've got to do. That's one. And number two, this complete line of malarkey that the minimum wage at whatever level it is the American dream, family building, you know, financial structure. It's just such a farce.
And beyond that, the small business owners are just, I mean, you can't believe the number of calls we get. Nobody's listening to us. The chambers aren't representing their views. You know, you got some groups like the NFIB, but they're small, they're trying to fight it. But small business owners are just beside themselves that nobody is representing their voice up there at Smith Hill.
Any thought on the truck toll fiasco for the week?
Well, I don't want to talk about the bridge because I don't have any comment on that. But we've issued a statement, and we're going to be putting out a report, I think, in the next few weeks about how we think we should handle the bridges and roads in a better way than tolling truckers.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it revenue based or is it slashing and bashing the general budget based?
It's prioritizing. Mostly it will deal with prioritizing existing revenues and how to do that. You know, other states have had this argument in recent past, and I was just at a national conference talking to one of those states. So we're gonna do some things that learn from what's happened in other states on that. So stay tuned.
See, this is how he gets booked on the show again. If because then just tells us, then we already know. Makes sense.
Well, I haven't written it yet.
So for people to follow their legislators off the philosophy of the Freedom and Prosperity Institute, you should simply go, did we put that up or just remember? It is rifreedom.org.
Yep. / RI Freedom Index. It'll probably be right there on your home page too, but if you want to go right to the page.
rifreedom.org.
Right.
All right. Appreciate your watchdog role, Michael. It's important. Someone's got to.
Thanks for doing what you're doing.
All right. One more thing. Or two when we come back. One of the more interesting things at the General Assembly this week, the Quahog Cup. Yes, roll tape. It's about basketball. Senator Bill Connolly put this resolution into the Senate, and it was approved, asking PC, URI, Bryant, and Brown to get together for a early tournament, perhaps during the winter season. It would be a great thing. A little lighter thought, anyway. Hey, listen, charter schools, big controversies this week, tomorrow night show. I'll see you on the radio at noon on WPRO as well. Thank you so much for watching.